Potts. I was born in Atlanta but grew up in Anniston, Alabama. From the time I was about 4, I guess we moved here, maybe 5. The events of Mother's Day in 1961 are emblazoned, I guess, on everybody who was here, but we had a couple of particularly harrowing things happen in conjunction with that. My dad had just started the radio station here in Anniston, the WDNG, in 1959, and was still in the process of trying to build that up into a business. And part of the real commitment he had was to local news. So he had a news staff, and he himself would be out going to public meetings, or if there was some kind of emergency going on, they'd have a car on site and use two-way radios. That's how they communicated back then. There was no cell phones or anything like that. But on that day, the Freedom bus riders came through town, and before the bus was able to get all the way out 202, it was set afire. And my dad was in the mobile unit from the radio station, and he and Bobby Price, who was his assistant manager, were the only reporters on scene. And he gave a report of what was going on air, live from out there on the two-way radio in 1961, so it was very high tech for back then. The next day or maybe 2 days later, he wrote an auditorial. It was radio, so editorials were called auditorials. And in it, if you read it now, it doesn't sound at all radical or unusual. As a matter of fact, it sounds a little staid, because he actually takes issue with each side, saying, we've got two sides of rabble-rousers looking for trouble, and they both found it yesterday, and it's just a shame that we're, as a community, in the midst of all this. Well, he got a call that afternoon from the grand omnipotent stomper guy, who basically just told him that he was going to need to get on the air the next day and retract what he had said in his auditorial. And Dad said, well, I make equal time available. People got other ideas or different viewpoints. You want to come up here and do that, you will do that. But I'm not changing this. Is an opinion. And it's my opinion, so I'm not changing that. And the guy said something along the lines of, well, my understanding is you've got a really nice young family, and you wouldn't want anything to happen to them, would you? And I said, you threatening me? Oh, no. You misunderstand me. It's just that our organization is about protecting people like you and your family and all, and to be against us could be dangerous. It's not a good thing to do. So you will get on tomorrow and do that. He said, well, no, we got to do that. Well, what he did do, not only did he not do that, my dad got on the air the next day and had taken copious notes of that conversation. And that was his auditorial that day. To give you an idea of the kind of people we're dealing with, here's a conversation I had yesterday with this grand omnipotent stomper guy. That did not go over well with those folks. And later that evening, the radio station, which at the time was just operating out of a little shed out here in West Anniston, at the site of the tower, which is the tower's still in the same exact place. And a group of folks drove by and threw a load of dynamite at it and blew it up. And there were two people inside, and neither one of them was killed, thankfully, but they were both injured pretty severely. And the station was completely, completely knocked out of existence for about 3 weeks, which in that business is an eternity. From my perspective as a child, my memory of it is not to do with the blast or any of that. I didn't see any of that, but the next day and for the next week, my sister, who was in the 1st grade and I in the 2nd grade, we walked a block from our house to get to the school bus, and then got on the bus and came out to St. Michael's to go to school in West Anniston. And each of us had a policeman that came with us each day for a week, and sat on the bus with us and rode to school with us and sat with us in our classrooms. So it was scary. It was kind of scary. And we had 2 police cars parked out in front of the house for a couple of weeks.